Ask a poll. This one when he goes, the public got ripped off, we got screwed. But like, if y'all listen to it, here's our latest. Putting this in the chat. But did you guys listen to that interview? Like, I was a little hesitant about posting it just because I had the feeling, it's kind of like game day. He's walking off the field and they just got defeated, and what he was saying in that moment was 1,000% heartfelt, but he was just so defeated, which is why I wanted to invite him tonight, because I knew that he's got a little more fight in him than.
Oh, in that crap. I'm not wanting to call it a lot problem either. Right. It ain't working out for her. We can see it.
That's what I'm going to
There's an account named Tim that was created today on Discord, and he just said that he's trying to get in, but it's full. So if someone would drop, I think that might be Congressman Burchett.
Tweet message, copy message, apps, heavy text reply. Duty, blah, 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 blah. Dude, Discord is just another freaking universe. Yes, it says voice full. Open soundboard. Shit, fuck, big. Is anyone out here?
Hello, Tim. Welcome to the chat.
Can you hear me?
What was that? Hey, there you are, brother.
Hey, Matt, how are you, brother? Merry Christmas.
People just ask how I was, and I always say I'm fucking miserable because I'm a congressional reporter and I live in the swamp.
Yeah, I told somebody I was on one of them, CNN or something, yesterday. I said, y'all need to quit calling this swamp. It's an open sewer.
Right? You know what? Actually, one of the things I learned this year, Washington was actually never a swamp, even though we're now swampy as fuck.
Yeah.
There was never a swamp here, which I feel like is false advertising.
Yeah. Well, what was it? It was just underwater, and it's just all fill dirt, or what is it? I know that's part of New York was that, I guess, but I guess
there were a bunch of estuaries back down towards the Jefferson Memorial,
Okay.
Hey, Congressman, you know how glad I am to hear your voice? All these people were about to start stoning me digitally. Like, you're a liar.
No, I've been trying to get on. My brother's class reunion was tonight, and they asked me to stop by and say hello, so I did. And then I got back in the car as quick as I could. I was getting tired of that, so I was ready to get out. So I'm glad I got out, brother.
Hey, you can use me as your excuse anytime.
Do what?
use me as your excuse to get out of whatever anytime.
Right on. Well, I appreciate you, Matt. You're one of the few that gets this issue and describes it in accurate detail. And unfortunately, the others don't. A lot of the others don't, and that's unfortunate for the cause. But it's, just to me, it gets very aggravating.
Well, I'm curious. I was just telling folks before you hopped on, that last conversation we had, after you cast your last vote of 2023, knock on wood, you were really down and depleted. And so was the whole UAP caucus, because,
Yeah.
But like, how are your spirits now? How are you feeling?
Yeah, all of our amendments got killed and Schumer's got killed. I mean, that just shows you the power of what we're up against, and the vastness of this group that is against us, against the truth. I feel like it's just that one issue, though, I think that will unite Democrats and Republicans, because I think everybody sees it as what it is, and we just need some transparency, brother. That's all we need. And then I think we'll be okay with it. But till then.
Well, and that was the interesting thing about Schumer's amendment, because there was even pushback on it because people said, this is so lukewarm. I think it passed the Senate with 100 votes, or they didn't even vote on it; it just sailed through. And then that's where it was interesting to see that secret whoever come and like quash it, because like there's a lot more legislation that you guys could have written that really would have had teeth. What do you even think of that measure?
Yeah, well, I guess my naivety on the issue on Congress and all, my amendment was just a page and a half. Schumer's was 60 pages long, but mine just said if it deals with UFOs or UAPs and it doesn't violate our national security. I didn't want the national security part in there, but they told me to put that in there, and it hurts our national security, then they can't let it out. But everything else they got to let out. And then the chairman of Armed Services told all the Republicans that, in fact, the bill frees up all the stuff on UFOs that are in the archives, which the archives aren't a secure environment. There's nothing over there that, there's a bunch of redacted memos and blotted out pictures. Is all that is. That's ridiculous. So we got hosed once again.
I really want to be a fly on the wall if you do get a sit down with Schumer. Because one thing you said to me the other day, you were like, I'm bottom of the totem pole. I'm number 435 in Congress. So humble. But like, you're the head of you're a co-chair of the UAP caucus, and you guys had Grush in. Like, your guys' work got that public hearing. Schumer either was watching that or was briefed on it. And I bet he was nervous watching it, So I think you're on his radar.
Well, we'll see. I'm going to try to get a sit down with him, or at least one of his staffers, just to talk to him about the issue and just see how it goes. I don't know how these guys, I'm not old school. I'm not in this bunch. I'm in a rush. I'm tired of, putting it off and putting it off and putting it off. I just want to get to it and let's go. And I know these guys like to wait and they study it, and we're ready. We are ready. Turn it loose. I think one thing that's helping us a little bit is that we always had the media that was more or less the left wing, and now we got the right wing with Tucker Carlson. My gosh, I've talked to, I've been on his deal. I'm going to call him. I'm going to talk to him and tell him I need him to slow down a little bit on the fringe. I mean, he's talking about how our government has cut a deal with them. Yeah, and I'm just not ready to go there yet. I don't want to chase that rabbit. I want to just turn loose what we have of the information. And if we've cut a deal with the aliens, so be it. Let's find that out. But that's not. I mean, that if something like that were to come out, I think that would overshadow even craft recovery.
Yeah. Have you ever talked to Jamie Raskin about the issue? Because coming out of that Grush hearing, he was gung ho.
Yeah. Jamie's actually a good friend of mine, which is oddly enough. He and I kind of got to be buddies when I found out he had cancer, and we talked. I told him I've been praying for him, and he always is just. Even one day he kind of gutted me in committee, but talked about me being one of the most popular members of Congress right before he gutted me. So I mean, he's got to do the part. I understand the partisan thing they got to do when they're in leadership. That's part of the deal. I don't.
But that's kind of beautiful. He went to kiss your face and then stab you in the side. Like, that's beautiful.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. I mean, I'm okay. He had to do it. I understand. I mean, it's just part of his deal. But I'm ready, and I'm frustrated, as I know everybody on this call is. Does anybody have any questions of me?
Yeah.
Can they ask me a question, or what's the deal?
Yeah.
I very much do. Tim, Congressman Burchett, have you heard of the Department of Energy's aerogel lighter than air craft experiments that they're doing at Los Alamos National Lab?
Briefly, I don't know enough about it. And please call me Tim, brother. I don't care about the congressman title. That's, as I always tell somebody, that's some 85-year-old white guy that shuffles down the hall. Statistically, that's a congressman is. But no, I know very little about it. I've heard about it, as I've heard of a lot of different programs. I have no verification of what they're doing, but if there's something out there like that, that's some interesting stuff. I mean, the lighter than air, of course, they can say it's balloons and things like that, but I don't think that's what you're talking about, is it?
No, Tim, it's not. I'm actually really well versed in this subject. If you'd like to have some more information about it, I'm more than willing to share what I know about the program, including proof that they've created these craft in spherical shapes, which are partially transparent.
Okay, well, that would fit in with, and I'm not going to say too much, but that would fit in with some things that I'm acquainted with, and that would be very interesting to me, because if you could get with the guy in my office, let's see, who is it that I do this with in my office? Well, just call the office and tell them I said to call about UFOs.
I'm in Canada right now, Tim. I get blocked by the 202 office number. I have briefly spoken with one of your Knoxville aides, but I don't know if the information got relayed to you. So I'm going to pass Matt my cell phone number, and you can call me anytime to talk about this.
Okay, it'll probably be around first of the year. Well, I'd like to do it in my office, so I can call you. I just can call you from, and I'll have my guy there with me so he can make notes, because he's very Noah. It's Noah in my watch. I know I can think of his name, Noah.
Perfect. Thank you for your time, Tim.
Hey, no, tell me your first name, brother. Just so I can look.
My name is Joshua Lawrence Bertrand. I'm an American-Canadian dual citizen.
Awesome. All right, brother. I look forward to hearing from you, and thank you.
Thank you so much, too, Tim.
If I could jump in with the next question here. Hey, Tim, this is Thomas Fessler. I'm from Washington State. My question is to you is that we hear a lot about everything that's going on about our military aircraft, around our military bases, but a lot of people, they care, but they just don't care about. They want something they can relate to, with things that are happening to them or their family or their friends or their people across the country or around the world. Because the biggest question, we know the craft is here, focusing on the craft. is truly the psyop. What we need to be focusing on, the biggest question is, what are they doing here? What kind of non-human infrastructure do these things have here? Give us something,
Yeah.
to get past the craft,
Yeah. It's interestingly enough, I was talking to some people in the know, and we were talking about the Greys, the entities they call the Greys, and
Yeah.
they were telling me that they thought that these beings were bred genetically, and that we had shared some information with them somehow. Again, I'm not sure how that works, and that these were beings that were being bred to travel these distances and could withstand these type of things and didn't have the same. I mean, their waste, they didn't have like a bowels or a urinary
Yeah.
tract or anything like that. They sweated it out, and just how they could absorb nutrients and things. And so, I've that is an interesting concept that you bring to the table, and I agree with you. I wish we could move to some of these others, but the UFO community is very supportive of me, but they're very diverse, and their issues are always different, a little different nuance. So I think I see what you're saying. I would like to see us get focused on one issue, and let's answer that, and let's move to the next.
Absolutely.
But
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
No, thank you, brother. Thank you. Anybody else, Matt?
Yeah, I saw a couple. James, do you want to go? Or I can read it if you want. But James has a question for you.
All right.
Are you there, James?
Read the question.
Well, his question is, will the House Oversight Committee have access to David Grush's ICIG complaint during your classified skip briefing with Thomas Neuenheim on the 12th?
I don't know. That's a good question. I just don't know. It's going to be wide open though, and it's still, to me, until I communicate with Grush pretty regularly, and until I see his ass walk into the skiff, I'm not totally sure it's going to happen, because
Why is that?
well, they've just thrown up a roadblock every time we turn around, and it's just it's just, to me, it's almost the point of being ridiculous.
Well,
And
here
I also think, I mean, maybe, I don't know. I hate being a doggy downer about all this stuff, but I just was, I think they're trying to push this thing to the point where maybe he leaks something out, and then they arrest him or do something like that. I just don't. I just, because that is just his frustration of all this stuff and wanting to talk. I mean, you saw it, Matt. You saw him during the committee hearing. You knew he wanted to uncork, but he had to stop and regain himself and remember, his oath and all that stuff. And I mean, he's an honorable guy. I love him for that. But I wish. But like I said, the only time I think we're ever going to get to the bottom of this thing is if somebody walks out of one of those labs, those quasi-governmental labs, where it wouldn't be declared espionage, and they bring out either material, photographs, or some real proof, and they get it out to us before they are allowed to commit suicide by shooting themselves in the back of the head 5 times. Because those people, they're ruthless, and they will not
Congressman Burchett, you got to sit in. Congressman Burchett, you got to sit in on one of my courses, because I have a lot more faith in Congress than you do. I got to give you a copy. I got to give you a copy of the book by Healy from Cato called "The Cult of the Presidency." It's all about how Congress has ceded so much power down Pennsylvania Avenue over the years, when the Constitution puts you all in the driver's seat. But I was curious, in this, the media or whatever, folks like me called it chaos or whatever, but it was interesting, because McCarthy, he he greenlit another hearing for you all, but then you got permission for the skiff on the 12th. Like, who's making these calls? Is it Speaker Johnson? Is it Intel community?
It's
Because
the Intel community. Speaker Johnson's on board.
yeah,
I'm one of the 8 that helped put him in there. So he is, he told me, he said, and he wrote it down. I said, look, Speaker, all we want is transparency. I said, yeah, let's get to the bottom of this. And he looked at me. We were on the House floor. I was in, where I sit back there, I call it center's row. And he said, and he wrote down transparency. I saw him write it down in his little book. And so that's all I asked him for. I said, look, I don't want anything. I don't have this is no quid pro quo. I just want transparency.
well,
And he agreed with me.
Well, that's where what you all are asking, you guys can like hand them a couple dissertations and like say, oh, it's got to be all this. But if you keep it really simple and just say, hey, we want to know what's flying above our heads. That's where I think you could get people like Johnson to just be like, oh yeah, that's common sense. Or maybe he goes and has his own classified briefing and then he comes out white as a ghost and says, no, I can't talk about it. Well, then go and get him drunk or whatever. I don't know. I think these Southern Baptists don't.
He's like me. That just means we don't speak to you in the liquor store. That's all that means.
Hey, I'll spike your drinks.
Yeah, I know. All right, brother. Any more questions?
I have a question about that, if you don't mind.
Let's let the lady go.
Let the lady go first, sure.
Oh, thank you very much. Tim Burchett, you're amazing. You're very inspirational. And I come from South Africa originally, and we don't have politicians that talk as straight as you do. So it's really appreciated.
Thank you, ma'am. And I dig your accent. That's really cool.
Thank you. Thank you. So I have a couple of questions to ask you. The first is, you threatened to have field hearings back in, I think it was June, July. And I was wondering if you might go back to that as a possibility. And my second question related to that is, we're probably at the point where we do need catastrophic disclosure. We do need someone to walk out of a lab with something that, obviously they shouldn't have done. But the problem with that is that's going to violate a number of laws and contracts. And I'm wondering if maybe the way around that is to offer some kind of protection for that type of whistleblower, and, have that type of proposal put in, because I just feel like, that they're just going to walk into a mountain of, legal crap if that happens.
Yeah, well, that's what happened to Grush. And I told Dave thing, I said, they're coming at you with both barrels, and he knew it. And they hit PTSD, but that blew up in their face. And so I think that's just going to continue. The whistleblower protection's a myth. I just don't buy it. We don't have, I'm not and there again, I'm a doggy downer, but I'm just talking about the truth. Let's just be honest. These people are ruthless. They haven't followed any rules or laws since 1947 at least. And they're not going to start now. And we just, like I said, Washington's an open sewer. We've got to do something about it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And would you go ahead and hold like field hearings?
Yes, ma'am. But the reason we called, that was more of a chess move, really. Because now we got the skiff. I can do a field hearing tomorrow. I can do it and call Matt. He can alert y'all. But the reality is we need to get in that skiff with Grush. That's where we need to be. And let's start getting some information, and let's start formulating our next committee, because I'm ready to go. I want to hit the ground running. I want to have something at least by February.
Yeah, and we're all behind you. You know that.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. I appreciate that. I wish y'all lived in my district. They're coming after me. I got a call from a buddy of mine who was high up in the Trump administration, and he's pretty world famous, I guess. But he was afraid for my safety, and I'm just worried about getting reelected because they hate me. that intelligence industry, they are funneling money. Those dark deals, they're going to wear my ass out. And I worry about getting reelected, actually.
Now he's talking like a
He's talking about my buddy Roger Stone.
He told me, he said, brother, you have kicked the hornet's nest.
Yeah.
And we'll keep fighting them, though. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you very much.
To circle back to her first question, right now, the lever you guys have is Arrow. And it seems like a simple way around that problem you just described is just initially just take Arrow out of the Pentagon. You know, because right now, having them tucked inside, like, what do you see as the problems with them inside there? And have there been conversations about, putting legislation up there to remove it from the Pentagon's grasp?
Well, that's problem is we don't have a majority in the House that thinks like you and I do. That's the problem. We can't do much of anything. They'll talk a good game with y'all, but there's very little accountability. And I just don't think we got the votes to do something like that.
Hey, as I tell everyone, Democrats really, really care about healthcare. And for 100 years, they fought for universal health care. And after 100 years, they fell shy of it with a crappy bill. Even Democrats say Obamacare is crappy. And so the legislative process, you got to take that long game. But I've already seen the conversation change because of, obviously, Crush.
We crushed them on that committee, Matt. Thanks to you and others like you, because they didn't expect that turnout. I was talking to an old timer up there. He said that's the biggest crowd he'd seen there in 15 years. 15 years. They over 1,000 people. I was going out in the morning to do Fox News, and I was coming out of my office at 4:30. I'd already had my shower and everything, and was coming down there. 4:30 in the morning, people were outside trying to get in. And I was like, and they just didn't understand. They still don't understand. They're scratching their heads. But I hope we call our elected officials and hold them accountable during all this, because it's an election. House is elected every 2 years, and we need to get in there with them and let them know.
You just reminded me I owe one of our followers a beer or case of beer, because we did one of these the day before or the night before the hearing. And I was like, they were like, should I get there super early? And I was like, no, I don't see why. Like, for, when Scalia died, there was a huge line that wrapped around the block. But man, I got that one wrong.
Well, I don't think I started walking down the hall and people started clapping, and I was like, who are they clapping for? And somebody said, it's you, idiot. And I was like, wow. I mean, people will post pictures of me and taking selfies with them and stuff. And I was flattered and honored, of course, but it was really them. I should have been the one posting their pictures, because they were the folks that, that believed in this issue and have just kept it in the forefront. And you're right, though. We moved some mountains with that committee, but we need one more. We need a really strong follow-up on it.
Have you broached the idea of a select committee with Johnson? Seems like right now he's so green and being pulled in so many directions that he might just say yes.
Yeah, we talked about it. I just don't know if he's up for it. I'll carry food in. I'll push him a little more. He's in the deep end, though. I mean, you got to realize one day he was literally organizing speeches on the House floor on, international basket weaving or something. We have these competitions in Republican conference, and the next dadgum day he's flying to Israel to meet with Netanyahu. He got thrown into the deep end quick. So
papers on them.
That's what I'm saying. Take advantage of that. Because he seems so green. And like I was talking to Patrick McHenry, who was the interim speaker when McCarthy was out and before Johnson was in. And like his big issue's crypto. And he said he said Johnson's super busy, but he's like waiting for that window because if he doesn't get his ear first, then the opponents of their measure, Elizabeth Warren and Senator Marshall, they're going to get his ear, like that faction. And so don't delay. It seems like.
Well, don't worry. I mean, they're not going to get over one on us. I just say, I want to get, we got it. I want to get Grush in the skiff, and then I want to have a hearing, and then I want to bust their ass.
This came up on one of the hits. I did like 10 UFO shows in the past 2 weeks. Someone was asking about that point. This next hearing you have, people were curious why you weren't having more, whistleblowers, or also, people who had encounters or whatever.
Well, it
seemed like your strategy is to go up the chain.
That's a great question. We had 12 or 15 people on there that we thought were going to be there, or that we'd asked, and I knew we'd get it down to a few less than that. But then, people kept dropping off. they were threatened, and they called back and said no. NASA got involved with one of them. I remember there was an affiliate of NASA. They came back, oh, NASA didn't do that. That was our affiliate. I don't know this. I don't play that stupid game, and I'm sick of them. So it was we just, and then we got the 3 we got. So.
Oh, wait, real quick, back to the select committee. I haven't released this audio yet. I'm going to do it in the next week or so. But Andre Carson, who Indiana Democrat, he was the one who hosted that first UFO hearing in 2022. He was like, hey, he's always asking me for intel. He's like, hey, what's up with this select committee? I was like, it's kind of in limbo. But he's like, hey, if they get that, they should look to me as ranking member. And he's respected across the board. So if you have someone like him lead, or hell, Jamie Raskin, you got him. There's some people who give you a lot of cover.
Yeah, they would. But I've got to. That's when it gets partisan. I got to keep these old guys on our side out of it, because you get those two in there at the front end, they're gonna pitch a fit. I've just got to play it smart. I only get so many bites at the apple, and they're Jamie's he's not a favorite among the Republicans, of course, and and some of our folks aren't favorites among the Democrats. So I've got to I'm trying to play it even, and of course I'm not the chairman of it. I'm not the one I got pulled out from under me the last time, I felt like. But I understand. They got all these ranking members. It's BS. Both parties. You got to raise so much money to be in leadership and stuff. I don't kiss enough ass, and I don't raise enough money. I'll never be in leadership. But I honestly don't ever want to be. And that's the difference between me and the rest of those knuckleheads. They all want, that's their life, is to be chairman of whatever.
Yeah.
And I basically just want to take care of my constituents and be left alone. But I guess I'm a little different in that category.
And turn some heads across the globe on this issue. We got an interesting question from Dead Monk. Have you seen any proof that in your mind solidifies your belief in NHI, alien existence?
Okay, wait, NHI, what is that?
Non-human.
Oh, non-human. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Non-human intelligence.
Yeah, I've seen.
Don't memorize all the damn three-letter words.
We don't. There's a couple of rules in my office. One is never compare anything to the Holocaust or Hitler that wasn't the Holocaust or Hitler. And the other one is don't ever use initials, because I
Preach.
my limited brain capacity or width or bandwidth, as everybody says now. I'm I don't, but yeah, I've seen enough. I would swear on a Bible right now that if I was, if I brought into something, court of law or whatever, I'd say absolutely, I've seen enough. I know that they exist. I know that that it's out there, and I have no doubt in my mind.
How'd you get involved with the issue? Get on your
statement.
radar left.
Say, how did I get involved in this issue?
Yeah, how did it get on your?
Well, it was as a young kid. I'd ride my bike, or my parents would drop me off at as we'd say, the library, and they had books out on the table on
You could have almost been offended.
on Bigfoot and UFOs and all this other stuff, and I started picking it up and reading about them. And I mean, I was just a kid, 7, 8 years old, and then and I read it. I read all the magazines and stuff. I'd get the magazines when I had $2 to buy one, and a lot of it was rehashed old stories and stuff. But it always fascinated me. Roswell was one of those things that always fascinated me. And then fast forward, I'm in Congress. I'm walking out there, and the cornerstone of all television media, TMZ, the photographer for them, asked me if I was had seen the report on UFOs, and I told him I didn't need to see it. I said it's just going to be a redacted piece of Swiss cheese, and then the next thing I know, Lou Elizondo and all these people are calling me, wanting me to get involved in it, and I was like, yeah, because I smell a skunk in this one.
Real quick, can you all mute yourself or talk louder? Because I'm curious about this fishing line that someone's talking about. Actually, man, I'm on whenever he's on. Can I mute his ass? So we got another question from Five Tinger. Have you had time to think about NDAA for fiscal year 2025, or are you still licking your wounds from FY24?
Yeah, I've thought about some stuff on there, but I just feel like we're so corrupted by that bunch. I've lost a lot of faith in some of those people, and because the chairman of the Armed Services Committee, I was told, had called town to talk to my predecessor about finding somebody to run against me. So, I mean, they're
Rogers.
Do what? Yeah.
That's Mikey Rogers.
Yeah, because he's the one that killed our amendment.
Was it? It was him.
Oh, absolutely, 100%.
Because when I talked to him when he was leaving that conference committee, he said what he was hearing, and it surprised me because I was like, "Wait, he knows about this?" And he was like, "What I'm hearing is it's duplicative. There's things that are already at law."
Yeah, he told us. He's the one that told us, that said it was in the archive. It freed up everything in the archives, which I didn't know anything was secret in the archives. So I have no faith in that bunch. I've got no, and I'm a Christian. I try to be forgiving, and I honestly don't have any grudge against anybody in Congress, McCarthy or anybody else. But those are the guys that killed us on this issue.
So you're saying if you weren't a Christian, you would kick his ass in the alley?
Probably.
So just like I used to be the correspondent for WPLN, Nashville's NPR station, I too have been the correspondent for Alabama Public Radio. I know Mr. Rogers, and that is good information for you to have because he's going to hear a lot more from me in the new year. Do you think the Holman rule comes into play here at all, or could be viable?
Yeah, the Holman rule is the one where you vote to zero out somebody's salary. Is that the Holman rule you're talking about? Yeah, of course it's always an option, but no, we don't have the guts to do it.
Well, no, my question is, do you guys even know yet whose salary? It feels like there's these secret people lurking in the background on this. Or do you have names?
Nah, yeah, I know that. It doesn't matter. All they're doing is taking orders. And, you can go down again. That's the rabbit hole. You got to get to the top. Until we get a president in there that takes this stuff serious, that says we're going to get to the bottom of it, it's not going to and that he's a bulldog or she's a bulldog and won't be afraid to.
I was going to say, even though your party wanted to lock her up, one thing that got passed over in the 2016 campaign was Hillary. It's Hillary, so she qualified the heck out of it with her little Arkansas lies. But she said she did want to open this stuff up if she was elected.
They all say that, and then they get in there, right. and then somebody. That's what my guy on the inside told me. He said they whisper something in their ear and they back off because they all said the same thing about the Kennedy assassination file. There is nobody left alive that's involved in that. Why in the world did they not release that stuff?
Right.
They sealed the files on Martin Luther King again. Why in the world would they do that? It's just lies, corruption, money, deceit, everything that government, apparently our government is built upon. But we just we'll keep trying. I'm frustrated, but I'm not giving up unless they beat me or kill me first. And for the record, I'm not depressed. I'm not suffering from depression, and I am not suicidal.
Good to know, brother.
Me either, Congressman.
So
somebody's trying to ask a question, I think, Matt.
Yeah, I was going to ask Jops, but Jops can ask it, or someone else hop in.
I'd like to ask it, please. So thanks, Tim. First of all, thanks for swearing on television. I think it's real nice and it keeps it real. It's a frustrating topic, but more to the point, are you heavily involved with Chris Mellon, Lou Elizondo, the Soul Foundation, Danny Sheehan, who's making some wild claims right now that everything's coming out and things like that? Or are these disparate groups trying to achieve the same objective?
They're different groups, and that's part of our problem. I'm not going to name names or anything, but you've got several different groups, and not some of them, not all of them, but you've got a few charlatans in the group, and the others just are sick and tired of them because they get a lot of publicity, I know this is crazy, but I think they are fed information by the government that's false, and they get a big following. So it distracts us from, oh, look over here, this shiny object. And, we're looking at that. And they have they got great credentials and they're telling the truth as far as they know it, but it's just a lie. Some of the stuff, and I worry about that, and a lot of the groups are just competing for TV time. I haven't seen Lou Elizondo on television in a long time. I think he just got fed up with a lot of it, and he and I know he's making a movie, but anyway, neither here nor there.
So we're going to let you go soon, sir, but we love you and we love your time. Who's got the best questions? Let's do
I've got a question, a quick one.
Fire
Can I ask a quick question? Mark Rivers here. I'm new to this, so I apologize if it's a dumb question. But if there's a point, oh, and by the way, thanks for everything you do, Tim.
Yes, sir.
If there's a point where maybe you guys get enough information or see enough, could you and other members of Congress simply, hold a press conference and announce that based on what you've seen, we're not alone? Wouldn't that demand a response and catch news and effectively be disclosure, or at least start a snowball?
Yeah, but that's more or less what we did in our hearing. I mean, the bombshell was Nancy Mace, I thought, asking, the questions. It was funny. I knew Matt and I have had this conversation before, not Matt Gates. Well, Matt Gates and I have to, but Matt here on the thing. We've had the conversation before, but, all the questions.
Matt Gates and me in the same sentence. Just
do what?
I said, don't name Matt Laszlo and Matt Gates in the same damn sentence.
Well, I just want to make sure because Gates was on. Gates, we brought him in on the committee because he was our go-to guy at Eglin. I mean, if he hadn't been with us at Eglin, we'd have been shut down. But he got fed up with it, and that made him a believer. So he's all about it. But anyway, I think. Wait, go back and ask your question again. I got off track. I'm sorry. What was his question, Matt?
Well, it's basically, I don't know, and I could be wrong. I don't know if it's already been done where there's enough of a burden of proof where someone just comes out in government and says, look, I can't tell you everything, but I can tell you we're not alone, and so can my colleagues here. And
yeah, I mean, we've done that indirectly, but the problem is that most of the people have not seen what I've seen. So, and a lot of
that's
things
what I was wondering.
A lot of things I've seen are not from a government entity. It's somebody maybe formerly in the government. I'll say possibly, and just on the outside looking in, and I pieced together a lot of things. But yeah, it's going to have to be a scientist that walks out and says, "Hey, here, this is a body, this is a craft. Here's the pictures." And I'm out. This is it. And they get it on YouTube again before they're eliminated.
Gotcha. Thanks so much for the answer. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, brother.
I'll talk with you in January, Tim, and I'm not suicidal either, so I hope to make it to our conversation.
You got it, brother. Thank you. I look forward to it very much. Hey, Matt.
I thought you'd be a pastor and I've given sermons. If anyone on here is ever suicidal, feel free to reach out to me. I'd love to chat with you because I have been there and it gets better, maybe. Whatever.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, it does. And I say that because I'm afraid, there is documented cases of some of these people, taking a dive out of a building and stuff that had information at one time. And that's happened before, and I just don't, and I'm not one of those, so I would never joke about it. I've lost close friends to suicide, but I just don't. Yeah. I don't want anybody, if anything were to happen to me, I don't want you all to think that I'd done it myself. That's my point.
We'll remember that, sir.
Thank you. I am, and I've got it. She gave me a beautiful daughter. I got a package deal. I married her, and the little girl my wife was a widow, and I got the best of both worlds. I don't know about you're very kind though, but if it wasn't for people like Matt Laszlo getting the word out, he's the one guy. I've said this before, though. I'll say it to all the press. He understands the issue. He puts it in terminology and verbiage that folks like myself understand, and it provides an incredible amount of credibility on the issue because he's the leading one on this thing on the Hill. There's no question, head and shoulders above the rest. So, Matt,
I can't do what I do without everyone in the Ask a Poll community, because you know what I do, Congressman? I take their questions and I
I
ask
dig
you
it.
them.
I dig it. I got it.
I dig it
You're
too,
good.
brother. No, I bring your constituents into the Capitol. I fucking love it.
Yeah.
All right,
All
we
right,
got
brother.
maybe 2, 3 more because the congressman's in recess and we do need this man to rest.
I do have another question.
I've been waiting patiently, so as soon as you get to the next one, I'd like to go next.
All right.
If I can go real quick, what can we do to help this? Obviously, calling representatives didn't get very far last time. Is there something that you need us to do to help move the needle forward?
Yes, ma'am, and continue the pressure, because the closer they get to election year, and you need to say, hey, why did you allow that? Why, if they did vote for the NDAA, why did they allow that amendment to come on? And they're going to tell you, I mean, the amendments to come off, and just say, we just got completely ambushed on that thing. And to quit playing ball with the defense industry, start playing ball with the voters. That's what you got to tell them.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. And there's a dude there that's asking a question.
I think it was Mike.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. Tim, I just wanted to say that my name is Mike. I'm an investigative journalist. I'm also a friend and a colleague of Matt's.
Yes,
and
sir.
I want to let you know I think you're an American hero, and everything that you've done has been outstanding, brother. And
Thank you, brother.
I think the biggest issue right now is what you mentioned earlier. They're going to try to primary you out of your seat.
Yes,
and we
sir.
can't let that happen. That, I think, is the priority, in my opinion. And I wanted to know if Matt could share your direct contact information with me so we can maybe have a private conversation further about it off the air.
Yes, sir. We can do that very well. I tell you what, if you just want to, can I give you my Knoxville number and you just call the office there, and that would probably be the easiest way. And then if it got into anything else, I'd call you offline. But if you make an initial contact,
I'll tell you what, Tim. Matt has my direct contact number. He could give it to you, and you can give me a call when you have a moment.
You got it, brother. Hey, thank you so much. I would never. You call me a hero, but I'm not a hero, dude. I just I get paid a stupid amount of money for
You're a
what?
patriot.
Yep.
We need you desperately in the Congress, and I want to make sure that you stay and keep your seat.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. You're very kind.
You.
Your
have my
tattered Carhartt, Congressman. Your tattered Carhartt jacket is a hero, though. So I don't know if that's your cape and that's your superpower, but that is heroic. We have a quick question: is catastrophic disclosure a concern?
Define catastrophic disclosure to me, Matt. This is the first time I've heard that term, but I liked it. I'm probably going to use it. So tell me what it means.
I read that from Giver91. So the mic is yours, Giver. Does anyone know catastrophic disclosure? I don't.
I think it dealt with bringing out material. Go ahead, ma'am. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. Sorry, I was at the Soul Foundation. So they had many different people to talk about catastrophic disclosure. Really, what it means is a combination of ontological shock and commensurate social international upheaval, which I think, to be honest, is really the old excuse for why they keep hiding it.
Oh,
but
I know what you're saying. I got you. Yeah. Yes, ma'am. You know, I call myself a born again Christian. I'm not a very good one, obviously, but because of my chosen profession. But you know, I've heard that they've said they can't do it because it would upset the religious, whatever. And I just don't buy that. I mean, the Bible says, first Genesis 1, God created the heavens and the earth. You'll read into it. Ezekiel saw the wheel, and the wheel. It was a King James version translation of I forget what it was. I'm tired. I'm trying to think what it was. But anyway, but what he was comparing it to was the most technologically advanced item that they had at the time, and that was a wheel. And so anything you compared to a wheel was high tech, So I mean, I believe they're in the Bible. I just don't believe we're the best that God can do. And I've said this thousands of times, and people they roll their eyes when I say it. But every night I was just out with my dogs in the backyard, and they were doing their business. And I look up at those stars, and man, the stars, that light from those stars left there before the time of Christ, the vastness of God's universe. And I just, that's a control issue by government. They think they're better than we are. They think they can. My buddy Jared Moskowitz, who happens to be Jewish, who's a Democrat out of Florida, he said he articulated. He's incredibly intellectual, and I'm envious of his brain. But he just said, he said that
we
have
join
the
an important
capacity to
broadcast
understand this.
already
This
in
is not going to
progress.
cause us to.
We'll see it from the beginning in a second.
Run
folks,
off the
but I need to
rails,
jump
and
you
it's
right to this
not the
exclusive interview
government's
of Tim
business
Burchett.
to decide what we can and cannot know. So I just don't think it will cause everybody to flip out and destroy our religion. I mean, religion is. I mean, Jesus didn't like the religious people, so I just I just don't like. I mean, didn't like. He
So
didn't. He
we're
liked. He loved
watching.
everybody, but he warned us about religious people, and because you get into the mechanism and not the product. So I'm not worried about that.
That's
And
Tim
I think
Burchett speaking, my friends.
that is what they use in their mindset and their incredibly huge egos that they know
We've got
best
an exclusive
for us.
interview
So,
with Tim
sorry,
Burchett
that's a long
and Matt
answer.
Laszlo
Sorry, Matt.
that we're
But
catching in
Congressman,
progress.
as a Playboy
I'm starting the
correspondent,
show in a way I usually
I need
don't
to have
start
you
it,
over
but here we
because I
go.
disagree with you
Gosh.
that we're not the best God could do. That's actually the last print edition of Playboy ever, and my profile of Corey Gardner's in there. This question caught my eye. Do you know? Have you ever talked to any think tanks? Like, is there any intellectual heft that you all can get behind this? Someone mentioned Soul, but yeah, have you ever explored that route or even academics?
Well, there's several academics that do it, but they are always afraid of losing their funding, and I get that. So yeah, but you're talking about changing the opinion of what's going on. I got so many fires to stamp out on this issue that it's just tough. So that's a good point. I know several intellectual types though that have come forward to me about this issue that believe in this issue wholeheartedly, and it's just over half the population believes it. But when 15% of the population that of voting age goes to the polls, we lose every time.
But
We got
Congressman,
to kick some of these people out.
But Congressman, I think one thing you're forgetting. Remember, like fast forward or rewind to the start of 2023. That first object, like American airspace was invaded by a Chinese balloon, and like even if that's a cover story, every single day you can drag the Pentagon into the Capitol and say, "How the fuck did you allow a Chinese balloon to invade American airspace?" So, I mean, you guys have the upper hand because that happened. And
I
because
agree with you.
Yeah.
I agree with you, Matt. But the trouble is, too many of our colleagues on both sides of the aisle are in bed with the I call them the war pimps. They're in bed with them. Their business is war and their business is good. And I'll give you a case in point.
Yeah.
When we voted to send, or they decided, I can't remember if it was an executive order or not, to send our missile defense system to who are the Russians fighting? I'm losing my brain. Ukraine. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm really tired. Ukraine. I'm sorry. And then people on both sides of the aisle had bought stock in one of the missile, and I think it was Raytheon.
Yep.
And they made bank. You know, everybody's raising hell about Pelosi getting 76% return, but some of these cats are doing pretty good themselves. You know, and my $7,000 portfolio is in a mutual fund, if anybody ever asks. So I'm not in that league, but that's you're asking them to call in the Pentagon. You know, they're not going to kill the goose that laid the golden egg. They've not passed an audit in the history of audits, and yet we rewarded them with what, $40 billion new dollars, and they admitted that half of their assets are unaccounted for. That's like $500 billion. I mean, and so we're corrupted. We are corrupted. And,
Amen.
And both parties are, because you got to raise money and you got to kiss ass to be a chairman of a committee.
But
and that's just, people have gone in there and written personal checks to their party and literally been made chairman the next year. Documented fact.
But this is one where so I'm professor at Hopkins and all this. I train, all these communication staffers on the Hill. Like I had to move on.org was in my class, and so was a Trump press secretary. Just go super, super low-fi. And like in the press conference you all had, you guys let Matt Gaetz take the lead, and he did not speak for the group because he was like, yeah, I don't have any more questions about the balloons that invaded American airspace. How does he not? I think he was just misspoke there, but keep hammering back on that, because right now I see the communication strategy from the Pentagon, from the intelligence community. They've made it, little green man, Crush, had struggled with mental illness in the past. Like they're using the same old tired playbook, where if you guys just ask, do you know if another Chinese balloon is hovering over a military nuclear site right now? And until they can identify those 300 or whatever objects that Arrow can't identify, then don't let them reframe the conversation. Keep it very simple and say, don't rest until we know each one of those. I'm only going to allow one more question because the congressman is tired and he's been very generous with his time. Who's got the best one?
I have one, if I can go ahead.
There we go.
About all of the countries supposedly do have some type of UAPs or crafts cover or know about it. So some countries from the Axis, some from the Allies, some from the Five Eyes, and myself from Canada. But question to you, Tim, do you think it's all hidden in a coordinated way? Is there some type of super group basically keeping all of this hidden so that basically the structure of powers are not disturbed, or is just kind of Cold War, and each country is trying to develop weapons off of this?
I think it's more of a Cold War thing. I think it's so compartmentalized though that we don't know who has what. These our contractors have it, and so that keeps it out of. It's quasi-governmental. They can peel back the veil, so to speak, but then they don't have FOIA, which is Freedom of Information Act. We can't FOIA a private corporation, even though they have a government contract, and the people there don't even know what it is. And the people at the Pentagon, they come out and hold up their hands. They would take a lie detector test that they send over. They don't know anything about it, and so that's how they do it. It's just like Oak Ridge National Laboratory. Well, it backs up to my district. Over 6,000 people that work there live in my district, but it's not in my district. When they developed the atomic bomb during the Second World War, over 2,000 people worked there, and I think maybe less than 12 knew what they were working on. So, compartmentalization. They know how. They're the best in the world at it, and I think that's how they keep it off of us.
Mm-hmm.
So I've asked this before to a lot of members of this new freshman class. When it comes to FOIAs, why don't you guys rethink that? Like, that's decades ago. Another Congress solidified that. Why not extend that to contractors? But then also, why not extend it to Congress? Because right now the public cannot FOIA Congress. We can FOIA the entire government except Congress.
Well, that's a great idea, Matt. When in January, why don't you come to my office and let's see if we can hash that out. I would love to get that. I am all about the transparency, and that would be a great press conference.
Well, and Congressman, remember an ally on this, AOC, when she was leaving the press hearing, she comes at this issue from that defense and contracting angle.
Yeah,
I didn't know that until just now. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I was the one that asked her to come to be on that end of that committee because I needed high profile. I needed to be bipartisan. So that was So I'll get with her. She'd be a good one to work with.
See, you're a lot wiser than you let on, because hell yeah, you want AOC and MTG, all the 3-letter words that blow up the internet. I think there's a lot more tools, and especially when it comes to public pressure, like people are into this, sir. But hey, man, thank you so much for your time, especially just out of the blue. Appreciate you, sir.
You got it, Matt. Merry Christmas to everybody. Let's keep after them. Y'all get out and vote. Vote these people out of office if they're not going to do what's right. We're going to lose our country. Thank you, Matt.
Amen. Thank you, brother.
All right, and there we go, everybody. Welcome to Disclosure Tonight. Holy cow. It was a different start to the show tonight, just to say the least. While we do have a guest on tonight, Mr. Jack Connor from Cosmic Road, a great YouTube channel out there who brings little 20-minute segments or less about what's going on the daily UFO news beat. There was an interview that popped up out of nowhere. I need to stop this recording right now over on